I had my first concussion a couple of weeks after my daughter turned 1. So it was a hugely massive time in her life in terms of her development, starting to walk, talking, so much happening. And then suddenly I wasn't there for a little while. I couldn't look after her.
So a concussion falls under the mild traumatic brain injury headline. So there's a varying range of traumatic brain injuries you can have, so mild, moderate or severe, but concussion falls underneath that mild banner. There's a real misconception out there that you have to have lost consciousness. That's not true at all. There's a really diverse range of symptoms that people might have after a concussion, but essentially you have to have some kind of trauma that makes your head and brain go in a different direction essentially from your body, so you don't even need a hit to the head. As it sends almost like shock waves through the brain. It's not localized to one specific area. It's all really about the neurological axons that conduct all of the messages in the brain, so they're the ones that will be affected. So we don't see brain tissue damaged with a concussion.
I guess it's like waking up to a world you don't understand when you have a head injury, and understanding that it is an environment that it's really hard to pin down what a head injury is because it's unique to everyone.
Yeah, without knowing at the time what was going on, like I had a lot of dizziness, a lot of vertigo. I was struggling to look at a screen, terrible headaches. My sleep was terrible, I couldn't sleep. I had a whole lot of these migraines and like nerve pain, which was in the end related to both the concussion and the whiplash.
My body just felt this crazy motion sickness, nausea. I used to say I can't find my words, or I'd lose my words. I'd be talking and I knew what I wanted to say, but I couldn't get the words out. So all of these really weird things were happening and weren't going away, as well as horrendous headaches just constantly. 70 to 80% of people will have a concussion, have some symptoms for a period of time and then be fine. But it's that 10 to 20% or almost 30% now which will have a much longer delayed recovery. And it's really hard for them to be able to always articulate what is wrong. And it's really hard when they look normal. There's no physical injury, and so people will often doubt what they're going through, and I find that really sad.
I had about 6 or 7 months of essentially just being in rehab full time, and then at about month 7 I started back to work. It took me 2 years to be back to 30 hours a week, and I'm now 6.5 years on from my accident, and I've been working at 80%, I guess, for the last 4.5 years.
Like once you've had one concussion, the impacts of future head knocks are much greater. When your life is so drastically changed, and when who you are as a person, like as a mum, it makes me really sad to think of how changed I was. And so I keep holding on to the belief or the hope that I will fully recover, but I'm not entirely sure if I'll ever be the same.
Traditionally, we're always taught that vision's about seeing 20/20, and what that really means is that we're just able to see an image clearly. Now, vision is way more than that. It's actually a system that really enables you to navigate through the world. It controls your reaction to the environment. So the only way we really know how to navigate stairs is we see them first, and then the brain sends a message to the motor system, to the leg, to say you now need to move up so we can go up that stair. So the visual system is really about how we direct action to be able to get through the world. And that's really different from just sight or clarity of vision. In our eye, we have 2.5 million nerve fibres in the whole visual system together. That goes back to the brain for processing. About 20%, or just shy of 20%, is about our peripheral vision and the orientation systems. So our peripheral system really, I think, just doesn't quite get the props it deserves. It's really important to be able to use your central vision more effectively and efficiently.
The brain rehab people were doing the normal tests they do, like, tell me when your vision doubles, and my vision wasn't doubling. But what emerged later when I got to Renee was I was actually not processing any vision out of my left eye. And so I wasn't seeing double vision because I only had one eye that was really functioning, which was why I was struggling to read. It was why I was struggling to be in a car. It was, it sort of suddenly started to make sense.
The neuroplasticity is a concept of being able to teach the brain new things at any point in time. So if you believe that we can learn new things at all ages, which we all do every day, then we can always teach the brain how to utilise vision better. Vision training is where we try to relearn how to use all of that visual information that we're receiving at the brain and how we can integrate that with all those other systems again.
I really struggled with particularly holding my focal length at a reading distance. So that was a series of exercises which taught me to be able to regain normal function in terms of being able to move my focal length in and out.
It was using my body with those arrows, getting to read opposite to, or do opposite to what I was reading. It's all very, body's doing something, vision's doing something. Body's doing something, vision's doing something. And it connects them both back up.
Along the journey when people are undertaking neurovision training, there's always like this kind of almost aha moment.
I can still remember the day that I suddenly figured out, what I could do to make my focal length slot to the right place. Something I'd been working on for weeks and weeks and been really struggling to get to this. And all of a sudden it was like, bang, I did it.
I had an A4 bit of paper that Renee gave me. I'd read the letters out because it was in a sentence, and I would have to go like that to look at the letters. I remember we both noticed it, Renee and I, at the same time when I was in the training. And it was the first time that I looked at that half of the page and then that half of the page, not at each single letter. And then I noticed it the minute it happened, and so did Renee, and we were just like, oh, yeah. It was a big moment. And so it was the first time that I could see improvement, I guess, in the injury. And it wasn't improving without that.
I think I've been really lucky to be able to help quite a few people, and not just in Wellington, and certainly have lots of people who've travelled to see me from other parts of the country, and it's been a real privilege to be able to be part of their recovery. But absolutely, there's so little that's known about it. This is not something that we are taught about at university, and it's something that I've had to go out and really learn a huge amount. Neuroplasticity right there, learning all the time, and I challenge myself to try to keep up with what's actually happening all the time.
When I had my first concussion and when I had the first assessment with Renee, I was blown away.
The amazing thing about working with her was that she was able to quantify and evidence the symptoms I was describing to my brain rehab team, who didn't really have the tools and measurement, processes and things to see what I was telling them.
All of these things that I was experiencing suddenly started to make sense, and I could also see that there was a path forward. It really made me have hope, which was really hard to have when everything felt so difficult.
Renee was one of the first to make my body relax. And so it was like being helped the first time. And it was like 4 years in, so that was a long 4 years.
I do sometimes question why I do this at times with some of the struggles that we have with the acceptance of this as a treatment for people, and not for every person with a concussion, but just those people who have visual issues. But there's nothing more rewarding than actually being able to be part of that person's journey and see them at the other end and know that I've contributed to their recovery. That's what keeps me going.
A lot of the medical system is designed for fixed people that don't have head injuries, that brains are functioning fully, they've just got a sore knee, So the whole system is designed as if you don't have a head injury.
So ACC has a pretty blanket position on vision and neurovision training post-concussion. And that blanket position is, we don't believe that the visual system is affected, and we certainly don't believe vision training is something that needs to be looked at.
I can see that ACC doesn't necessarily have the right ears in the building for neuro-optometry and for its success. And so I can see there's a lot of work, especially that Renee has been doing, to try and make this service available for people who, like me, who cannot afford to engage in expensive treatments or specialized treatments that our unique injuries require. And so they've got to be supported by ACC, but ACC has to have the right people in the right places that actually understand when someone says something.
I understand that obviously they don't believe there is the evidence out there. That is, again, if you just look from a truly black and white perspective in an area that's super grey, and it's limiting to New Zealanders for this to not be funded.
I'm kind of astounded that it is not considered part of treatment right now, and is so difficult for patients and people suffering to try and fight for.
If you're going through a head injury, if something doesn't make your body feel that that's the answer, then it's not. And you need to keep looking for the right specialist that has the right scope. And that's not always available on ACC.
I really wish that we actually started to question why we don't expect vision to be affected following a brain injury, when we know that so much of that brain real estate is to do with vision and visual processing, and then its interaction with the motor system. But we're still scraping the top of the iceberg, essentially, about how much we know. It's definitely about being able to help these people who really have had nobody else be able to explain their symptoms to them. They've had nobody else be able to offer anything that's really remotely going to get them on that path to recovery. And this is, again, it's only for those patients who have the visual part of concussion. I'm not saying that I can be the silver bullet for every person with concussion. That's 100% not true, because they do have different profiles, again, making it really challenging to study.
In a way, it's made me more mindful and more aware of not always pushing through and not pushing to the limit.
Find a support group if you can. I mentioned that that's not really provided by the system.
If you can involve yourself in online groups of other people going through it, or in-person groups, I think that's really important.
Working with Renee, I've offered to be that person for other patients. If someone's watching me talk about this and they're being offered the chance to talk to someone who's been through it, take it up. Talk to as many people as you can and been through it. Everyone's journey is a bit different.
I think, humans are social creatures, and so making sure you keep those connections is really important, and connecting and doing what makes your body feel like it's being helped.